Hi and welcome to the Happier Life Project podcast, brought to you by the free award-winning mental health and wellness app, My Possible Self. I'm your host, Gabby Sanderson, and today we have a truly special episode featuring an old friend of mine. He's called Jon McClure, best known as being the charismatic frontman of the Sheffield-based indie rock band Reverend and the Makers. The band broke into the music scene with their debut album, The State of Things, in 2007. I'm sure everybody listening to this will recognise their hit single, Heavyweight Champion of the World. And their follow-up album, A French Kiss in the Chaos, saw them supporting Oasis on what would be the final tour of, let's say, the first phase of their career. Jon and I go way back to my days as a presenter and a dancer in Ibiza for Ibiza Rocks, which is where Reverend and the Makers performed more than once alongside big bands like the Arctic Monkeys. Jon and his wife Laura, who plays keys and provides vocals in the band, have returned to Ibiza many times since then, cementing their connection to the island and its vibrant music culture and our friendship. Last year, Reverend and the Makers released their 7th album, Heatwave in the Cold North, which is an absolutely fantastic record. However, it's their latest single, Late Night Phone Call, that caught my attention recently for its heartfelt story and meaningful partnership with the Samaritans. Late Night Phone Call is an upbeat love song. It isn't just a fantastic listen. It's a campaign to raise awareness about loneliness, particularly over the festive period. Last Christmas, the Samaritans answered over 6,700 phone calls, supported by 1,200 volunteers, proving how critical their service is for those who feel isolated or are struggling to cope. As you're about to hear, this is an issue very close to Jon's heart. And for the last 4 years on Christmas Day, he's been doing something really special to spread some joy and companionship to those on their own, which speaks volumes about his character. During this episode, Jon will share more about these efforts and the inspiration behind Late Night Phone Call, a song based on his own personal story of calling his poor wife Laura after a night out, drunkenly professing his love. Now, for the very important part, you can support this campaign in several ways. By purchasing the song, you can download it, you can stream it, you can donate to the Samaritans, you can watch the music video on YouTube, and you can simply help spread the word. Let's try and get them to Christmas #1. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Visit the band's Instagram page at Reverend_Makers for more of the details and for all of the details. The campaign has already garnered support from some very big names like actress Vicky McClure, no relation to Jon, and Liam Gallagher. And here's a fun fact. It was apparently thanks to a late night phone call between the brothers Liam and Noel that sealed Oasis's long-fought reunion. Anyway, enough about that. I've kept you waiting for long enough. Without further ado, here's my not so late night Zoom call with the one and only Jon McClure.
All right, mate.
All right, mate. How are you doing?
All right, I'm in this day fever office with our Chris.
All right, Chris. I'm Gabby.
All right, well, how are you doing?
Doing well.
I was telling him something right horrible and mucky, and then I thought, I hope Gabby's not heard me say that.
Oh, come on, Jon. We've been through a lot in our Ibiza days. It couldn't be that.
Well,
I didn't know this moment would ever come, but I hoped it would because I'm merging my background in music with mental health. So what better guest to chat to than my mate Jon McClure from Reverend Makers?
It's very lovely to see you. We're reflecting fondly on our Ibiza years over there and thinking about all crazy times we used to have.
It was a fun time, wasn't it? I don't know if I could do it to the same level that we did it back then with the partying. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I was just talking to my brother Chris. I said, do you remember such and such on Ibiza? Do you remember such and such? And he was just like, I don't remember anybody, which is quite worrying, isn't it, really? But we had a good time.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, we had an absolute ball, and we've kind of loosely kept in touch throughout the years as well. I'm, a big fan of you and your missus, Laura. So when I saw you post on Instagram about the new single and the story behind it, Late Night Phone Call, then I was like, we got to talk, we got to support, and we got to try and help you, move the goal towards number one. Do you reckon it might happen?
No, I don't. I think we've probably got no chance, but you never know. And also, like, the main thing is that it sort of raises money and awareness for Samaritans. That would be sort of primary aim.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when you say you're going for number one, you then get like on radio and on telly and stuff. So we're just playing along with it, really, and probably end up at like number 350. I mean, it's weird because album chart, we can do well. We've got a good chance of getting a number one album, but singles charts, that streaming thing's just ridiculous. And it favours, you're not only up against like Ed Sheeran and Tom Grennan and all these massive streaming artists, but you're up against every song that's ever been released, right? So you're up against Mariah, you're up against George.
So and it's 40 years, I think, of Mariah's All I Want for Christmas. So that is a bit of a tricky one to try and...
It is a banger, but you never used to get this years ago. It used to be like just new songs in charts, right? So I think they ought to maybe have some sort of rule where you can only do it once or something, because it just feels a bit weird. Like, what chance have I got against George Michael and Mariah Carey? I'm in an indie band from Sheffield. Do you know what I mean? Like proper David and Goliath business, isn't it? But we'll have a dabble. What is good is it's streaming better than anything I've ever streamed. Videos have more watches first week. Yeah. Loads of people are really enthused by it. They love it. And obviously that cause, winter is a very tough time, Christmas especially, for a lot of people. And just letting people know, look, you're not on your own. Samaritans are there 365 days a year, 24/7. You can give him a ring. Me and our kid, we've had a lot of people in his life who committed suicide, his uncle, his auntie, his cousin, my dad's best mate, one of my mum's right good pals, few pals of ours. It's something that really bothers me. And for the last 10 years or so, I've Zoomed people on Christmas Day, just put a smile on some faces. So Samaritans are good people, you know what I mean? So we want to back them, really, mate. That's the vibe.
Definitely. We did an episode, John, on loneliness for the podcast with this brilliant doctor from the NHS called Dr. Richard Pyle. And he really dived deep. He did a TEDx talk. That's how I found him. He dove deep into the stats of like loneliness. And he said now the stats are the same. There's a 1 in 2 chance that you might be affected by cancer, whether it's directly or somebody you know. And it's the same with loneliness. But actually, you're more likely now, because of the way treatment has evolved, to survive cancer than loneliness. It is that bad. And these stats were from a year ago. Over 3 million people in the UK alone have cancer. Over 3.8 million have what is described as chronic loneliness. So it is really, really serious. So I think it's fantastic what you're doing. I really, really do.
Yeah, I mean, it can affect all different people and all, like, I don't know if you saw recently that Adele came out and were like, I'm lonely.
Oh, I didn't see that, no.
Yeah, and it can really like affect people who you would think they're flying and they're doing great in life and blah, blah, blah. And suddenly like they struggle and they're on their own. And I think, I don't know if it's since COVID or a kind of byproducts of modern life and technology or whatever it is, but people are very up in their head now, right? And they get really lost within their own thoughts. And I'm talking from experience here because this has certainly happened to me and lots of other people. And I mean, it affects all people, right? But there's also a disproportionate thing with men, especially men who don't feel they can talk to people. But there, listen, there are things out there, Samaritans being one, Andy's Man's Club I'm really fond of. There's a bunch of people now who are out there trying to do things to kind of combat this, right? So I think we're more equipped in that regard. And maybe I wonder whether there's a thing that we've never measured loneliness in an accurate way in the past. Might be a thing that happened years ago, but certainly like, I think on my street, I don't know everybody on my street, whereas years ago, you didn't know everybody, right? And you would have been able to go round to Sheila's house and be like, here, Sheila, I feel a bit weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a bit of that. A bit of that. And I think we kind of, I don't know what's happened to society, but we've sort of fragmented and atomized in a bit, haven't we, till we're kind of a bit on our own. So I think the internet, of course, is a great antidote to that, because you can find community online, right? And find other people. And even just this, I'm putting Samaritans' number out there. Somebody might ring them. And if it helps one person, we've done all right, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're right as well about the fact it can affect anybody, because apparently, according to this research, it's actually the 18 to 24-year-old bracket who struggle more than older people, more mature people, should we say. So the song Late Night Phone Call, it wasn't intended to be a Christmas song, was it?
No, me and my mate Danny LaFromo are writing tunes with. We're doing it, and it's a weird song, so it's not got a chorus and it don't mention Christmas, right? But it's definitely a Christmas pop song. And halfway through, Dan's like, is this a Christmas song? And I'm like, it is a bit, innit? There's a sound to it, a kind of mood to it. Yeah. I'm coming home drunk from pub and I'm ringing my missus up and I'm saying, I love you, babe. And she's like, she don't want to hear it at first, and then by the end she's like, oh, come on then. Like, there's a bit of that, which is just a completely true story.
Oh, I was going to say art imitating life, this, isn't it?
Well, you've got to suffer for your art, Gabby, haven't you? You know what I mean? So I had to go out and
she did. She did.
Yeah, she had to suffer for more likely. That's the story of me and Laura's life. She suffered for my art, yeah.
Well, I thought it was very cute that she features in the music video and that you have literally just recreated how the story came to be. I mean, you are king of writing the bangers, though, aren't you, to be fair? So why should a Christmas song that maybe wasn't initially intended to be a Christmas song be any different?
It's funny, I feel like I'm getting better as I get older. I had a bit of a weird noughties when I weren't really sure of what I was supposed to do, because everyone were into like Calvin Harris and dubstep or something. And then like when I've got to this 20s decade, I've just found a purple patch, and everything I seem to write goes on radio, and we've got this big gig next year, 20 years at band in this big park in Sheffield. We was headlining. It's going to be like biggest gig we've ever done. Amazing. So like in a sort of creative band space, I'm flying, and obviously I've got this thing, Dave Feeble, my brother, and Jim, my mate, and Vicky McClure, the actress, and her husband Johnny, and that's sort of like a daytime disco thing. And that's absolutely flying. We're in like 15 cities once a month with that.
Oh,
massive venues for daytime discos. And I don't know if you saw recently, but there were a sort of thing came out about the cures for depression. And the number one cure for depression, according to experts, is dancing.
Really?
So I mean, to be very clear, Day Fever's super cheesy, right? You know, like people romanticize the past and they're like, yeah, it was in the Hacienda, man. It's like, realistically, you were having like a WKD in your local disco, right? And listening to chart music, and you might have got into cool stuff a bit later, but being real about it, that's what you were into, right? So we wanted to summon up a bit of that energy, a bit of that sort of
celebratory.
Yeah, and we have other thing is we have 75% women coming to these events, right? Probably because of Vicky's involvement a little bit, but also there's a lot of themes around people feeling safe, finding community, being able to go with a big gang of multi-generation families and going and dancing your socks off for 5 hours in the day.
Yeah.
Finishes at 8. You can be in the house for 9 o'clock with like a curry and strictly on match it down. Winner.
Perfect. Winner. Absolutely. Yeah. That used to be the time you'd maybe start to get ready to go out. But I love the fact that now it's like, oh yeah, home. Yeah, take
it's funny, innit? 'Cause I've been out with you guys in Ibiza and we've gone to bed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon from the night before. But now that's when we start going out, yeah.
I couldn't think of anything worse now, Jon. Yeah. I did want to touch upon, if you don't mind me mentioning about your dad, because this is going to be your first Christmas where he's no longer with us in the physical world, should we say. And this is again something that affects so many people, myself included. So Christmas is always very heightened, isn't it? And I think this is why it's great that you are doing what you can in terms of with the loneliness epidemic. But it conjures up a lot of feelings.
Yeah, it makes other things. When I was a kid, I used to think you're either happy or you're sad, but you can be happy and sad, right? So like in the morning, I'm going to wake up the kids, I'm going to open the presents. I'm going to go to my mum's. I'm going to see my mum, our kid, his partner, their little girl. And my cousin's coming up who's also lost her dad. She's got nobody now. So she's coming with us. So we're all going to do that. And it's going to be like an happy, joyous thing. And then later on, when it goes dark and I'm going to feel a bit melancholy and I'm going to miss my dad and I'm going to probably have a cry, right? And I'm going to Zoom a bunch of people who are in a similar place because that's my vibe on Christmas. And then I'm probably going to feel happy again because we're all going to play a game and have a laugh. And I think like Christmas is like for me anyways, a big churny thing of joy, melancholy, sadness, happiness. It's all of them things. They're not sort of mutually exclusive. I'm happy for my kids looking at opening the presents and buzzing. And then it'll remind me of what I was like when I was a little kid and whatever. But look, I'm going to be with my mum, my brother, my family, my nearest and dearest. Yeah. And I'm lucky, you know what I mean? Like I'm lucky in that respect. And not everybody's got that. So I think, I don't know, like I don't want to slag off other people's charity work because the Band-Aid thing, a lot of the money they're raising probably is doing a load of good. But my thing is like these people they might live 2 doors down from you. Yeah. And they need your help and they're really struggling this Christmas. And I think I don't want to have like an Olympics of worthy charities. I don't mean it like that. But for me, personally, I feel Samaritans at this time of year, they're the ones because I feel like or similar endeavours, you know, things that are trying to get people off at the street or just trying to help people at Christmas time because it's there's quite a profound point to be made about the point of Christmas, right? And whether this materialistic thing where you're buying your Uncle Tom Cobley a pair of socks even though you haven't seen him for 4 years. Do you know what I mean? All that kind of malarkey, which I hate all that.
Me too.
I think there's something to be said for like getting into real spirit of it.
Yeah. And a way we can do that is by supporting your song. So how do we best support?
Best thing you can do is go on my social media, click on the link and just watch the video. Because when people watch the video, they fall in love. Every single person who's watched it, they see that video and they're like, oh my God, I'm done. That's it.
Yeah.
Love. And after that, you can buy a CD, you know, download it, which money, a lot of that.
Buy a CD? You buy a CD these days?
We're full 90s, right?
Oh, seriously?
We're into it. So support the chart push. And then there'll be obviously a donation to Samaritans. If there's a button to donate to Samaritans, stream it, share it, tell your friends about it. Tell John Lewis about it, because I think it should be John Lewis advert, really. There's still time, John, if you're watching.
Yeah, come on, John. Brilliant. Well, I've got to ask, based on the theme of the song, but late night phone calls, apart from Laura, who's a late night phone call that you've received in the past that's been quite a memorable one, John?
I've had, there's so many. Like, Tricky, the artist, Tricky, right? Who I'm a big fan of in the 90s. And I'm in bed one day. This is when you could still smoke in bed. Well, you can if you want, but when I still smoked in bed. Yeah. And like me and Laura's like lady having a smoke in bed and phone rings and I answers, I'm like, hello? It's like, hello, mate, it's Tricky. I need to tell you something. I'm like, all right. I'm a fan, right? He goes, I think you're a genius. And I think you're a lyrical genius. And you've blown my mind. I'm listening to your track. And he's singing one of my tunes to me, right? And I'm like, oh my God, this is wild. He's like, we're going to have a band, me and you. I'm like, are we? He's like, yeah, me and you. I'm like, oh, come on then, we'll do it. We're going to be called Dirty Dishes, yeah? And I'm going to send you a beat right now. And I want you to just get out your bed, go downstairs, sing into your laptop, send me it back. This is at about 2 a.m. now. So I'm like, all right, mate, I will. Sound. So I sends beat, goes downstairs, sings into beat, sends him it. I've never heard from him since.
I thought you were about to like reveal your Dirty Dishes was going on the road, going on tour.
No, imagine. Well, I've had a lot of late night phone calls, right? Like a lot of random. I could do a big name drop here, but one sticks in my mind as a sort of like, what a random thing. Like, yeah. He was literally like he thought I was Bob Dylan or something, and he was like, you changed music or something, and then never spoke to me again.
That is a great story. John, it's been absolutely brilliant to see you and to catch up. And I think what you're doing is absolutely wicked. And, you know, going back to like mental health, like music and mental health as well, we don't give it enough credit. Definitely, I'm sure making music is very therapeutic, but certainly being on the receiving end as well. So I'm glad you're still here doing what you're doing, because AI can't do everything, can it?
Well, I'm Morgan Freeman in Shawshank. I'm here for life. Like, I recently got an ADHD diagnosis, right? And I kind of thought, oh, right, well, that's why I'm a musician then. So this is me, like, till day I drop. So long may it continue.
It's Gabby back with you. Big thanks again to Jon McClure. Don't forget to visit the band's Instagram page at Reverend_makers for all of the info on how to buy the song, stream the song, download, watch on YouTube, donate if and how you can. And if you want to catch Jon live, then maybe try checking out one of his parties on New Year. He's taking Day Fever to some various cities. So this is the party he referred to in the conversation with Line of Duty actress Vicky McClure and filmmaker Johnny Owen. The trio have teamed up to create the UK and Ireland's biggest day party. So on New Year's Eve, they've got various shebangs happening up and down the country. Although you actually will be in home in your PJs in time for the countdown, which is absolutely perfect. And Reverend and the Makers announced that they will play their biggest headline show to date at Rock and Roll Circus at Don Valley Bowl in Sheffield on the 30th of August 2025. And if you are struggling and you don't feel like there's anybody that you can talk to on Christmas Day or any other day, please do call the Samaritans. It's free. You can reach them 24/7, day or night, on 116123. That's 116123. Or email Joe, spelled J-O, at samaritans.org. And we'll add all that information to the podcast episode show notes too. And just one more minute of your time while I run through the important housekeeping before I say farewell. If you are suffering with your mental health, there is a crisis button on the My Possible Self app, which will signpost you to the correct information for immediate expert advice. Those of you who are listening on one of the podcast platforms, the My Possible Self app is completely free to download and access all of the content, so you don't need to worry about it costing you anything. If you are in crisis or you think you may have an emergency, please do call your doctor or the emergency services immediately. The views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the interviewer, which is me, and the interviewees. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered as a substitute for professional or medical advice. Our partners at the Priory Healthcare are not involved in the production or content of this podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and you found it helpful, please do share it and subscribe and leave a review if you are listening on one of the podcast platforms. And to find and follow us on social media if you're not already there, we're most active on Instagram and you can find us at My Possible Self, and I've been at Radio Gabby. Until next time, do take care. Bye for now.